Today's topic I'm super passionate about, and I'm thrilled to have Molly Dean with me. It's managing top producer. She has been one for many, many years, and our business is well known in the marketplace and certainly has a wonderful story to talk about how she got into the business. And so, managing top producers is never really talked about. It's just assumed that, all right, just let them do their thing. So, I'm excited to have her. Molly is Senior Vice President at Leader One Financial. She's been in our business, as I mentioned, as a top producer for many years. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
I'm thrilled to have you. This is a topic and why I was so great. I was so thrilled that you were willing to talk about it because there's not a lot of conversations about it. It's assumed at senior management level, well, let's let them do their thing and that's fine. And so there's more to it than that. But before we jump into the topic, let's talk about how you got into our business.
Completely by accident.
Yeah.
I actually graduated from the University of Kansas with
Oh,
a Bachelor of Science in biology with an emphasis in human genetics. My grandfather's best friend just happened to own a car dealership in
yeah.
Lawrence where I worked. And I started as a title clerk. Then I started doing some finance deals. And one day a gentleman came in that was in the mortgage business and bought a car and started talking to me about it. And one thing led to another, and here I am.
All these years later. And so, talk about some of the things. Now, you've been a top producer for a long time. And so, talk about some of the things that really have made you successful.
Well, oddly enough, my career path started in non-prime or subprime.
Sure.
And so I got sort of an out of the box look at loans, right? Like I was the girl that was fixing the deals that
Okay.
didn't fall into the box. And so I learned a way to look at an application differently. I had to think of a way to put a square peg in a round hole, or however you want to look at
Hmm.
that, right? So, and that carried through as I transitioned more over to the prime side. I realized that there were a lot of deals that were coming to me that could have been maybe an FHA manual underwrite, things like that. Or when a borrower applies, I look at the way they apply, but I also look at other programs that might
Hmm.
benefit them by structuring it differently, looking at debts, journey to get to where I'm at because of the way I started being so different, right? Looking
Hmm.
at it differently. And so that's how I look at my career today and as I've grown is everything is not what people necessarily think it is on the surface. There's so much more behind it, right? And
Hmm.
so I think that's the reason why I love this industry so much and why I just every day get excited to come to work because you're learning every day.
Well, I can match with that with you, and I've been in it a lot longer than you have been, and so, and for the same exact reason. And in my case, I have a law degree and an MBA, and so who would ever think that you don't see that many of them in our mortgage lending, and you have a science background, which I think is fabulous. And so you look at the deals basically in a total picture, and really started early on doing that is
Yeah,
really
and
what.
it started, so I started 20, it's 23 years. So half my life I've been doing this. And I've spent 17 of those years at Leader One. And
Hmm.
in doing so, I've learned so much about the different pieces of the industry that, I think to be a top producer, you have to always be learning, right?
Right.
You have to be willing to accept change. And I think that's one thing that I've really taken in this industry is that it's constantly changing. And I think that's what's put me here,
Right.
right? So I went from non-prime, I went through '08 and '09. I actually started with Leader One in 2009 and really reinvented myself after my daughter was born in 2013. I was back and forth. I was back in the car business doing mortgage as a part-time thing and came back to the passion in 2016. So, really, I'm 10 years back as a true top producer, focused solely on my team, growing my business. Because I went through the ups and downs from '03 to 2016 and saw how
Hmm.
this business can change and took that as a moment of growth for myself and how I wanted to do this business differently.
Well, let's talk about, and that's a fabulous story. And I think there's a lot within our industry. Leaders and successful people will talk about the same issue about learning. And that is the appeal of it. It's not dull. It's like you're
Not at
not doing
all.
a widget, that's for sure. And so, talk about the managing of top producers. And let's start off with the biggest mistake that you see that happens with when you're a top producer, how you get managed.
I think the biggest mistake people make is
Hmm.
they leave us alone.
Yeah,
And we don't want to be left alone. Like we
right.
want to feel that support. Each of us, especially at Leader One, we're very unique at Leader One. Each top producer can run their business the way that fits their model the best. That's what I love about this company. I do business a very different way than another producer named Kevin here, but we're best friends and we collab a lot. But I think the
Hmm.
biggest mistake people make is they assume that we don't want support or we don't want questions or we don't want to be involved in programs, products, decisions. We very much do. We're, for lack of better words, I think everyone calls it boots on the ground. Like we're sitting in the
Sure.
chair. We see what happens every day. And I want to advocate for the new producers that were me in 2003. I want to
Sure.
advocate to make the hurdles go down for them, to make their path easier than mine so that they love this industry as much as I do, but maybe they don't have such a hard path on their way
Hmm.
to becoming a top producer.
Well, I can relate to that completely. But talk about, and you hit on, as I already mentioned, is that the perception is leave you alone. And so the reality is, what is that freedom that top producers should have when it comes to a lot of perceptions are that they are the prima donnas, that they get special favors and all this other as a reason for the success. What are your thoughts on that?
I would 100% disagree with that. Can we be prima donnas? Well, of course we can. I think any true salesperson in any
Hmm.
industry that has success in sales could be perceived as a prima donna. But I think the actual word people are looking for is respect. We've earned it because we've paved the way. We've hit the hurdles. We've jumped over them. We know
Right.
how to get around, over, crawl through all the different ways. We've learned the guidelines. We've spent the time on the calls with the underwriters. We've dug in the trenches with these borrowers to make the impossible possible, right? And with that comes experience, right? You can relate it to baseball, right? And
Hmm.
at bat, the more times you're up to the plate, the more confidence you have when you swing that bat, the more you know this pitcher is going to do this or do that. It's the same. Every loan you close could be considered an at bat. Top producers have a lot more of those. They have a lot more experience. They've had a lot more
Right.
conversations. They've learned how to navigate both underwriting and the sales side with the realtor partners and the borrowers to keep everyone calm while maintaining their team. All of that drops into a word called respect. They've
Hmm.
earned that seat, they've earned that voice because they've done the job many times and learned from their mistakes, taught themselves along the way, and got to the position where their voice, our voice, should be heard. We
Hmm.
know, we've
Hmm.
experienced it. And so I definitely think prima donna might not be the right word, but
Hmm.
instead, we've earned a seat at the table. We've earned a level of respect that lets our voice be heard.
I agree with you 1,000%. I have interviewed, and I was just talking to you before we got on, is that how I met the top producers over the years was through interviewing the top 100 number one producers, and they all were very similar, the same stories that this is not an easy business. It never was, but it is a business that for the right person who's willing to put the effort in, it can be fabulous because it's all the things that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, talk about the issue, Molly, from your viewpoint. What causes people to leave when they leave an organization? What is it that sets up like, this is a problem? And certainly you went back and came back and so forth. Talk about what is it that hits like the red flag?
I think it's that engagement of
Hmm.
support. I'll tear up as I say this. It's really truly getting to know the loan officer that you're talking to.
Right.
For me, I went through a very tough, I lost my mom in 24.
Hmm.
Sorry.
No, it's
She
still
she was diagnosed with cancer in 2023. And I had grown into a position that I didn't love. Okay. I'm not a great manager. I'm a really good loan officer, really good. And I was going through a stage of I don't enjoy the management side of things. I
sure.
need change. Although the people at Leader One who loved me and were supportive of what was going on with my mom, they were afraid of me taking a step out of the management role and doing just the loan part, right? And so we had had multiple conversations. Of course, I had been courted by several other companies out
Sure.
there. And when I said, I just need to go somewhere where I don't have to think about anything else other than doing loans. I just want to originate, right?
Hmm.
So I take that as a moment and a step back. And I realized though when I left that the support I had at Leader One was different than the support I had when I left. Did I get the role of just being a loan officer? Yes. Had I earned a seat at the table where my opinions and things mattered? They didn't. And that's okay. I was only there for a short period of time, right?
Hmm.
Coming back, it was good for me and good for Leader One for us to have that moment to say, we got to listen to what they need. It's not always a product, it's not always an underwriter, it's not
Right.
always a processor. Sometimes it's just space because you have life happening, right? And
Correct.
sometimes it's, I just need someone to step in and help me here because I really want to do this part of the job because this part of the job brings me joy. And
Right.
when you're going through a loss,
Hmm.
you're looking for joy every day.
Right. Oh
And
no, I'm
so
with
that's
you on.
a unique situation. But overall, I think we forget to ask what makes the loan officer tick, what brings them joy, and
Correct.
where are they struggling. And all of that comes from communication. And so it wasn't that I wasn't getting communication, it's that I think Leader One, well, I know they were afraid that I was going to step out of something that I earned and that I would
Hmm.
regret it.
Hmm.
And in turn, I left. I did regret that. And I came right back, and the conversations have been very, very different. And
Hmm.
the hugs, the warmth, it feels like family.
Right.
And I
Well, I
think
think
that's what we as top producers need. We don't need you to tell us how many times to pick up
right.
the phone and make sales calls. Like we already know all that, right?
Right.
We
Right.
want to feel like a part of something. We want to feel like we're part of a
Right.
family, a group of people forging a path together.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on this. I don't see enough of it in mortgage lending, I have to tell you, because at the senior level, I think they just think it's all about money. And it's all about, well, if I give you more basis points, that'll keep you with us. And it really is not. And at the end of the day, everyone has a life. And so what you're talking about, I think, is fabulous because it's not said enough.
No,
Not said enough at all. And so I think you're right on with all of that. And so, and we all go through a life cycle. And the life cycle, it could be having children with a family, then it comes to your caregiver. You're going through all these cycles and they are demanding of you. And so you need the corporation side to understand all of that. So I'm with you on all of that. It's not talked about enough. So when you're looking at the top producer, from the top producer's perspective, what is it that they would consider controlling and what would be micromanaging? Because there's always this conversation that senior leaders have. Well, I don't want to micromanage them. What would that look like from your viewpoint?
I can say that I definitely am not micromanaged at all. And
Hmm.
I don't think micromanagement works for a top producer. For example, if we couldn't go into a system because the corporation is so big and everything's based on closing
Hmm.
dates and you can't adjust your own closing date without a second level management or someone who's managing the pipeline doing that, that's frustrating for a top producer whose time is based on the amount of time it takes to update things, right? You could
Mm-hmm.
use that as a lock desk example too. If your process for locking takes X amount of number of minutes, that's the things that set a top producer backwards. So when you're micromanaging the backside and not allowing them to flow through steps with ease, that is what I would consider micromanaging. If a loan officer, a top producing loan officer, has the access to build their platform based on efficiency, then the micromanagement is not something that's necessary because, again, they've earned the trust, they've earned the seat. There's a reason why they're asking to do things this way for time and speed, right? But we also don't want to be left on an island where we have no communication because we do things our own way. We do like to hear the
Right.
why the company wants to do this or why the company wants to do
Mm-hmm.
that or why this product isn't in our lineup whereas our competition has this product, right? We want to be
Mm-hmm.
a voice or a quote unquote vision, so to speak, for the company because we see what's going on out there, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
no top producer wants a thumb on them whatsoever, but they do want someone to check in and say, "How can I help you today?" And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's as simple as a new coffee maker. Like that's what I'm saying. Like maybe we
Yeah.
needed extra caffeine and we were stressed that week. It's that check-in that's, hey, I know that we're thinking about
Mm-hmm.
taking this product out or bring this product in, or we're thinking about switching to this platform to lock loans. How do you feel about XYZ? Have you experienced XYZ? And have a voice. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
truly is it. But when you lock down and micromanage a top producer, it slows efficiency. And that's when they start
Mm-hmm.
looking elsewhere.
So this is one of my kind of pet peeves. And so what I've seen over the years is that lenders as a whole have, in other words, what was defined as a top producer was X volume. And now, because there's less volume, it can be that they go down to lower level volume people and they call those people top producers, when in fact of the matter, in prior years, they might be just average producers. And so who should get at what volume level? I know this is a hard question. At what volume level do you think a top producer, what are we really talking about? At 50 million, 100 million? Is it 20 million? What's kind of your view on it?
Well, I'm from Kansas City, so
So,
my average loan size is
yeah,
much less than
sure.
markets like
California. Yeah,
Colorado, California,
yeah,
Chicago,
yeah,
Florida.
yeah.
So with that being said, I would go to answer that question on unit base.
Units, sure.
And I think at 8 units, this is my
Hmm.
own personal opinion, on 8 units, a loan officer needs help. They're
Hmm.
not going to get to the next level if they don't have proper support.
Sure.
So, 8 units, 12, 20. What is that? I can't, the math is,
Well,
92 loans a
yeah,
year. So
yeah.
I would say in that 80 to 100 loans, you should be considered a top producer because that's a lot to manage by yourself.
Self,
And in
correct.
order to get to
Right.
that 10 to 15 a month, you're going to have to add an LOA, a processor. You're going to have to start putting
Hmm.
the pieces behind the loan officer, right?
Hmm.
What I also say by that, it's harder to take someone from 1 to 2 units to 8 than it is to take someone from 8 units to 15. Someone doing
Correct.
8 units is doing all the right things. They just need additional support to be able to do more sales. They're getting stuck in the weeds
Right.
of the day-to-day activities that it takes to get it to the finish line. They need more processing support. They need an LOA. They need something like that.
Correct.
Speaking from experience, I've always filled the buckets. That's one thing that Leader One has been fantastic. The conversations that are had with me because I want to continue to grow is always if I need XYZ, how many loans do I have to do? You need to do
Yeah.
this many. Okay, so if I want to add this person, I need to do this many more loans. Yes, I can go get them. I know where and how to go get the loans. It's making
Mhm.
sure that there's the buckets there to fill.
So when you're looking at, I guess here's one of my also pet peeves is that I think the sales rally, that this is the opportunity where corporations as a whole, will pull everybody together. There's supposedly a top producer, and then they have motivational speakers and all of that type of stuff. In my personal opinion, as I mentioned to you, my great friend Diana McFarland used to say, "Hey, listen, I can go buy a ticket to if I want to see aerospace." And so I used to laugh over that because it's true. And so it does lend itself. Maybe the money could be better spent than doing it that way. What's your thoughts on it? The gathering of the sales rally.
I actually love them.
Okay, good.
And I'll tell you why I love them.
Sure.
Yes, perhaps I could do my own vacation, just like you said, but I remember 23-year-old Molly
Yeah.
going to her first sales rally that I barely met the qualifications for and seeing a woman named Elizabeth from Vermont on stage as the top producer. And I told
Uh-huh.
myself I was going to beat her the next year. And I
Uh-huh.
did.
Yeah.
I was a rising star, so I was nowhere near her, but
Yes.
I had a goal to be her. And
Uh-huh.
so the following sales rally, I beat her by 1 unit that year.
Wow. Okay.
But it took a different level of grind. It took a different level of focus. It took a different level of work ethic for me to get there, right?
Sure.
But I wouldn't have known that had I not been to that sales rally, not seen
Correct.
her on stage, and not had an opportunity to have a conversation with her.
Right.
So those sales rallies to me are, yes, they're a reward for the
Mhm.
family. It's not the loan officer, it's the family who's
Right.
they sacrifice time. For example,
Sure.
my husband is a stay-at-home dad. Our daughter is now 13. And those trips for us are Josh's break. He
Yeah.
gets to sit on a beach without having to make breakfast for the daughter, feed the dogs, and do all the things, right? It's
Mhm.
his break. So
Mhm.
for me, it's about him getting that. But in addition
Yeah.
to it, it's the newer loan officers that join our company that make that trip that want to ask, Molly, how did you do it? What are
Right.
your
Sure.
systems?
Hmm.
How did you get
Hmm.
there? So I love them. And as busy as life can be, and sometimes those trips are during our busy season, I still think it's important that I am there to represent
Hmm.
leader one as well as what it's like to get here.
Yeah. No, I get you for what you're saying. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense for sure. And so I guess my last question, or a couple last questions, how to keep you engaged as a senior leader, and especially from the standpoint with so many things changing today, AI and so forth. What is it that is appealing to you? I mean, are you interested to go to Harvard's executive program for leadership, or what is it that you find you think people as a top producer would be appealing for?
I don't know how to answer that question specifically
Hmm.
because I think my drive is different than most top
Hmm.
producers. My drive is not to grow a team that does all of the production for me. My goal is actually to focus so much on production, get enough people that do business the way I do, that have their own production to grow their production through mine, and to be
Right.
able to take a step back from the actual meat and potatoes of the loan, eventually to just drive them business. Like just go out and make the relationships, which is the part of this business that I thrive and that I love
Sure.
the most.
Hmm.
It's the relationship. It's my why. It's the reason why. And if I have loan officers on my team that have a very similar why, they get it, we match. At some point, my production will roll more to theirs. It's starting to do that already, right?
Hmm.
And then I
Hmm.
can go grow production for them
Hmm.
because of the way I love the relationship, how I formulate the relationship. So for me, my answer isn't about, taking management classes or doing this or doing that,
Sure.
but it's about filling the pockets of my loan officers with loans to support their families while filling the pockets of my realtor partners to support their families and
Hmm.
creating a bigger community for the Molly Dean team.
Hmm. Well, I think that's fabulous, and I'm glad that you shared that. It's important that everyone has a different motivation, and I think that's really what you're saying. The motivation is different for every person, and
Yeah.
so that's important to be understood. So, talk about, I guess, a couple takeaways that you would want our listeners to have
A couple
today.
takeaways. If it's someone that's newer into the industry, right? Like
Hmm.
someone that's just getting in the industry and wants to hear from a top producer, the best advice that I can give to someone brand new is to learn the guidelines because the sales part
Yeah,
is the easy part, but you got to know what you're selling once
yeah.
because if you sell something and you can't get it to the finish line, that doesn't oftentimes create a smooth transaction and it doesn't create referrals. But if you know what you're selling and you do a good job, you're
Hmm.
likely going to get more referrals. So if you're newer in the industry, that's a piece of advice. As we grow in the industry, everyone wants to know what keeps us motivated, what keeps us in. This industry is tough. This industry is stressful. This
Right,
industry does create a level of sacrifice that a loan officer sacrifices for their family to be able to do the job, right?
right.
Really ground yourself in why you do it. And
Hmm.
sometimes that changes. I write a business plan every year. I journal. I think it's important that I know why I want to keep this mindset, why I want to keep doing this, why I want my team to do XYZ. Why do I build this business plan? And having a very defined why, and even though that why can change, I think
Sure.
keeps us motivated, locked in, and focused on the goal. And for me, my why is simple. My why is it it is for the realtors. It's for the relationship. It's
Right.
for putting shoes on their kids' feet.
Yeah.
It, that paycheck puts that roof on their house and it puts food on the table and it puts shoes on their kids' feet. And that is my rooted why. Now, are there other whys? Yes. Am I creating wealth for homeowners?
Hmm.
Absolutely. An opportunity for wealth. Am I creating opportunity for my team? Absolutely. Does that define the original why? Yes, it's supporting their families and all of that. Is my why my daughter and my husband and what they get to do? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it all goes back to the baseline, which is
Hmm.
every transaction is more than a transaction. It is supporting families and community. That's a long answer to a short question.
Well, no, I think it's right on point. And I think, as I mentioned to you before, every top producer I've ever interviewed and talked to, all successful people, it does come down to something like that. Because if it's just transactional, this is a very tough business and you can get burned out pretty quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got to have a longer view to it and it has to be more personal to you for sure. So Molly, how can people get a hold of you to continue the conversation? Because I think you've shared a lot of important points today.
My website is my name. It's
Mhm.
mollydeanteam.com. My contact information's there. My email address is there. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I have a business
Yeah.
page, Molly Dean Team at Leader One, Molly Dean with Leader One at on LinkedIn. There is a Molly Dean that's a photographer, so that's why I say, and a musician. So I'm like, you got to look for the mortgage person, but yeah, my
Well,
will direct you everywhere.
all right. Well, I appreciate you spending time with us today, and I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom. I mean, it's been terrific, and I think that I'll have to have you come back and talk more about some of these topics because I don't think they're discussed enough within mortgage lending. So, thanks so much for joining us today, and thank our listeners for tuning in. Certainly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us today. And if you're looking to become a more effective sales leader, check out the Mortgage Manager Mastery and the new companion workbook at mortgagemanagermastery.com. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.